Welcome to the Money is Emotional podcast with Christine Luken, the financial dignity coach. In this podcast, we help you recover a positive and peaceful relationship with your personal finances. We do this by bringing together wise money management with emotional intelligence. Join us for this journey where we navigate our relationship with money as Christine Luken draws from years of experience and guest experts to help you get to the root of your money issues.
Hello, my friend. Welcome to the Money is Emotional podcast. I am your host, Christine Luken. Today's episode is my top 3 emotional money tools. I have a lot of tools in my tool belt for helping clients manage their emotions when it comes to money. In fact, I have written the book on money and emotions. You might have heard of it. It has the same title as this podcast. It is Money is Emotional, Prevent Your Heart from Hijacking Your Wallet. What you might not know is that I also teach other financial coaches, CPAs, and advisors on how to help their clients manage emotions with money. In my course, which is called Foundations of Financial Dignity. Now, the links for both the book, Money is Emotional, and my course for other financial professionals, Foundations of Financial Dignity, are linked up in the show notes. So as we're going through the podcast, if you think you need one of those, please go and grab them. But the fact of the matter is, money is emotional. And I have spent 2 decades helping people to harness the power of their emotions to achieve their financial goals. And also helping them to turn the volume down on some of these negative emotions so that they're making decisions that they're happy with both now and later. Now, my course for advisors contains over 47 emotional money tools. So I had to think long and hard about which 3 am I going to include in this episode. So the ones that made the cut, these 3 tools are ones that apply to almost everybody. And they can also have the biggest impact on both your financial and your emotional well-being. So let's dive in with the first one. Emotional money tool number 1 is emotionally charged savings. For many people, saving money for long-term goals is hard. It's hard to stay motivated to save for something that is 5 years off into the future, or say 20 years off into the future if we're talking about retirement. And it's not because, you're not disciplined or you don't have the willpower or you suck with money. Our biology is actually wired against us in this regard. So our brain, the primitive part of our brain, wants us to choose a certain reward today over a potentially bigger and better reward in the future. So if you think about back in our caveman days, this was all about survival. So this part of our biology, this part of our brain chemistry would have us as cave people going after the rabbit that's 10 feet away from us because we could probably catch it and kill it and make rabbit stew so that we could survive another few days, rather than go after the woolly mammoth that we can see as a tiny little dot off on the horizon that we're not even sure we can catch up with to kill. Even though if we killed that woolly mammoth, we would have food for a very long time. So that biological function of our brain still exists. So that's why it can be hard for us to prioritize something that's so far off into the future that it seems like we're never going to get there. But there's a solution. Emotionally charged savings means that we will use both positive and negative emotions to supercharge our savings goals. So you've probably heard this advice that whatever financial goal you have, that you should vividly imagine it, you should think about how good it'll make you feel once you have it. Sometimes that's not enough. Sometimes dreaming about, the fantastic retirement that we're going to have and putting pictures of the places that we're going to retire onto our vision board, sometimes that's not enough to keep us on track with saving money. So here's the surprise. I actually want you to mix negative emotions in there. Now, for some people, you're like, wait a minute, what? I thought we were always supposed to be positive when it comes to our money. But here's the thing. We can actually use negative emotions to make a very super sharp contrast between getting what we want and failing to get what we want. Some people are more motivated to avoid pain than they are to pursue pleasure. So this is why it's actually superior to use both positive and negative emotions. So let me give you a concrete example of this. So my dream is to retire in Southwest Florida. So I have pictures of the places that I would like to retire on my vision board. I actually have a Zillow search set up for the type of house that my husband and I would like to buy once he retires from GE in 4 or 5 years. And so, we're already working on the positive side of things, right? We go down and visit my dad on a regular basis. While we're down there, we drive around and look at houses. We go to the beach. We eat at all these awesome restaurants. So we can very clearly imagine what it's going to feel like when we live down there in retirement. But what happens if we don't save enough money? What happens if we have to go into a government-funded nursing home and we have to stay here in the Midwest where the winters are gray and miserable and snowy? We can also imagine how that will feel. And in fact, here's another very strong thing that you can do. It's probably been 8 or 9 years ago when my mother-in-law needed to go into a nursing home. I was the one that went and did the first round of tours before I pulled my husband in to say yay or nay. And there was one in particular that as soon as I walked into it, I wanted to walk out. But I had an appointment with someone, so I went ahead and I did the tour. And as I was there, I paid really close attention to the sights and the sounds and the smells. I mean, I wouldn't put my worst enemy in this nursing home. But what was actually cool about the experience is that when I am tempted to not save for retirement, right? Because we all have that choice. Am I going to make a contribution to my IRA this year? How much am I putting into my 401k? Whenever I am confronted with that choice, yes, of course I think about Florida. I think about the amazing house that we want with a boat dock so that we can buy another boat. That's going to be so much fun. But then I can also imagine what it will be like if we don't meet our retirement goals and we have to stay here. And God forbid, I have to go into that nursing home. So by taking one of your long-term goals, you can actually vividly imagine what happens when you achieve it, but you can also vividly imagine what happens if you don't. And so you're basically using both positive and negative energy to move you in the right direction, right? Because that positive energy is pulling you forward, but then you've also got that negative energy like biting at your heels, right? So if you don't move, that's going to start to haunt you. And that actually does move you in the right direction, which is awesome. So it's a great idea to vividly imagine both the positive and negative consequences of saving or not saving for your various long-term goals. All right, so emotional money tool number 2. This is spend less by processing your feelings. Now, it annoys the crap out of me whenever I hear a financial professional or money guru say, just do the logical thing with money and leave emotions out of it. It is biologically impossible because the moment of decision happens in the same part of our brain that processes emotion. Now, look, it would be great if we could flip a switch in our brains so that we didn't spend money emotionally, right? You've got a big financial decision to make, or you're out shopping at the mall or shopping online, and you're like, ooh, my emotions are getting the best of me. Let me just flip this switch and turn them off. Well, the problem is we don't have that. So until science invents us a switch in our brain to turn off emotions, we need a tool that is going to help us dial down our emotional volume so we don't overspend and rack up a bunch of credit card debt because we're feeling sad or lonely or even excited. So I want you to think about your emotions like a radio station. Now, your logic is always there. It's always running in the background. But it is a constant. So let's think about your logic and your emotions like they're two radio stations playing at one time. Your logic is like a classical music station, right? The one that you hear in the elevator or in the department store. Unless you're quiet enough, you might not even notice it, but it's always there. It's always running in the background. Now, your emotions are not like that. Your emotions are more like a roller coaster, right? Sometimes they're very loud. Sometimes they're very soft. They're always there, but the volume fluctuates wildly depending on what's going on around you, what's going on in your life, or even what you're thinking about. So your emotions are more like that top 40 radio station where you've got like this soft, sad love song by Ed Sheeran 1 minute, and then the next minute you've got this loud, bass bumping Beyonce song that comes on right after it. So what we need to do is we need tools to bring down our emotional volume, right? We can't flip it off, but we need to wait until our emotional volume is quiet so that we can actually hear the voice of reason alongside of our emotions. So stuffing your feelings or ignoring them does not work. So if you're very upset or you're very lonely, it's really hard to just tell yourself, snap out of it or oh, I'm not supposed to feel this. I'm just going to grit my teeth and stuff it down. The problem is, if we do that, those emotions, it's almost like an evil jack-in-the-box, right? It's just a matter of time before something triggers them and they come popping out, usually at a very inconvenient time.
Dare to enter the Wealthy Woman Book Club, where answers exist to forbidden questions, where women of all ages and income secretly gather, where knowledge is shared, where possibilities are explored, where women claim their power. Dare to stay a spell in the Wealthy Woman Book Club. In this place, we lift each other up. In this place, we start dreaming again. In this place, we see financial miracles. In this place, we grow through the glory and the failure. In this place, we step into a new identity. Dare to champion the Wealthy Woman Book Club. We're creating a future where women are financially empowered across the globe. We're creating a future where our daughters stand on equal financial footing with our sons. We're creating a future where we purchase with our principles rather than price tags. We're creating a future where we use the power of money for the benefit of people and the planet. Welcome to the Wealthy Woman Book Club. Dare to come in, woman. Come in. Join us at wealthywomanbookclub.com.
So here's what works. It's processing your feelings in a healthy and productive way. Emotion literally means energy in motion. So rather than trying to block the flow, we need to give our emotions a way to move through us. So the goal is not getting rid of them entirely, but to lower the emotional volume. So here are some of the best ways to process emotion so that you're not attempting to soothe your feelings with spending. If you are angry, this is not the time to go on a shopping spree. Do something that will physically exhaust you. Take a kickboxing class, go for a hike, do some strenuous yard work, play with your kids, take a run with your dog. Move that angry energy out of your body. You don't want to be making financial decisions or interacting with your money when your emotional volume is a 7 out of 10. You really want that emotional volume to be like a 4 or below, right? It's never going to be 0. And if you've got a lot of stressful things going on in your life, you may not be able to expect it to be a 2 or a 3. So with angry energy, I find that doing something physical is one of the best ways to move that energy out and lower the emotional volume. Now, if you know you're the kind of person who is sad and you cheer yourself up by spending, if you're sad, let it out. Watch a sad movie or read a book that makes you cry. Let the tears flow over someone else's sad story. Don't try to hold it in. Here's something very interesting. Did you know that crying triggers the release of endorphins? Those are the body's natural painkillers. They help reduce physical and emotional pain and promote relaxation. So crying every once in a while in response to something sad is not a bad thing. Now, we don't want to take that very sad emotion into our interactions with money. But if you've had a tragedy, if you've had a death in the family, of course you're going to feel sad. And you may need to take care of some financial things while you're feeling sad. You just want to check in with yourself and say, how loud is my emotional volume right now? If it's very high, you need to do some things to take care of your emotions first before you interact with your money. If you're feeling lonely and you know, when I'm lonely, I have a tendency to get out of the house and spend money just so I can be around people. Call a friend or a family member to catch up. Or volunteer at your local animal shelter or a soup kitchen. Getting your mind off of yourself and your problems has been proven scientifically to boost your mood. So it's really about honoring your feelings and finding ways to meet those emotional needs and release those emotions in a way that's not going to hurt you financially. Now, negative emotions are not the only triggers for emotional spending. Sometimes it's because spending makes us feel good or we get excited about something. So if you're about to spend money that you hadn't planned on because you're excited about whatever it is you're buying, give yourself a cooling off period. If it's a small purchase, just set it down. Whatever it is, just set it down, walk to another part of the store, get away from it from 5 to 10 minutes, and then see if you really want it. And of course, obviously, if it fits into your spending plan, go ahead. Now, if you're tempted with a really big purchase like a new car, I highly recommend waiting 24 hours before purchasing and signing any paperwork. Because making a significant purchase when your emotions are loud, this is when people get into really bad financial decisions that can't be easily reversed. So with this particular tool, there's a couple of steps to it. It's really checking in with yourself and saying, first of all, what am I feeling right now? Name the emotion. How loud is this emotion on a scale of 1 to 10? And what do I need to do to give this emotion proper release so that I can get to a 3 or a 4 and be able to consult my logic along with my emotions to make a good decision. So, and here's the thing. We actually need to consult both our emotions and our logic to make sound money decisions. I don't know about you, but there have been several occasions where a financial decision has looked good on paper, but I had a bad feeling about it. Like something just felt off. Now, there have been times when I've overridden that feeling and done it anyways, and then later realized, oh, my intuition sensed something was wrong about this purchase, and now I regret it. Or I did honor the feeling, and maybe I'll never know why I had that feeling, but for some reason it just felt off. So we don't want to discount our feelings. We do want to take them into consideration. Emotional money tool number 3 is called Be Your Own Best Friend. This tool works very well if you have an especially tough financial decision to make and you know that your emotions are running high. So here's what you do with the Be Your Own Best Friend technique. You write out the facts of the situation as if it's happening to someone else. Write it out as if it's happening to your best friend, or maybe it's happening to your brother or sister. write out the names and the details of the situation. Write down any questions that you would ask your best friend or your sister about this situation in order to give them advice. And then write down the advice that you would give this person. You might even write down the pros and cons of each side of the situation. What this does is it dials down the emotional volume so that you can see the facts of the situation more clearly. Let's look at an example. Let's say that your 28-year-old son wrecked his car, and he comes to you and says, "Mom or Dad, I've wrecked my car. It's a total loss. I need to get a new car. My credit's not that great, and I need a cosigner. And if I don't get a new car, I'm not going to be able to get back and forth to work." Can you already feel your emotions rising up as you imagine that this is happening to you? Right? So, okay, let's imagine it's not happening to you. It's happening to your best friend. So if your best friend came to you and said, "Hey, my son wrecked his car and he wants me to cosign for a new one," you would write down, "Okay, here's my best friend, Bob. His son wrecked his car and wants him to cosign for a new one." Well, what questions would you want to ask Bob? You would probably say, "Hey, Bob, is this the first time he's wrecked a car? Tell me about the accident. What actually happened?" "Oh, he was out partying with his friends and he got a DUI and that's why he wrecked his car. Interesting. Maybe it's not that. Maybe he was on his way to work and got sideswiped by somebody that didn't have insurance. Is this his first accident, or has he had 4 accidents in the last 2 years?" These are things you would want to know and take into consideration when formulating some advice to give to Bob. Okay, so Bob, why does your son need a cosigner? Is it because his old car, he had saved up and he had paid cash for it, and now the insurance company is only going to give him a little bit of money for it, and so now he needs to get a loan, and he's never had a loan before? He's very responsible, but he just doesn't have any credit. How does the situation change if Bob tells you, "Well, the reason why he needs a cosigner is because he's behind on all these bills and, he's got a bunch of past due medical bills in his name and he's not great about paying his credit cards on time, so his credit score is in the 600s. That's probably going to change your advice to Bob, right? And then you're probably going to ask Bob, "Well, Bob, tell me about your financial situation. What would happen if you co-signed this loan and your son didn't pay for the car? Like, do you have enough money to cover this debt? If you co-sign on his car, is that going to hurt your borrowing power if you are going to buy a different house in the next couple of years?" Do you see what this process is doing? It is having you objectively look at the facts of the situation. And then if you can write down all those facts and you can say, "Okay, if this was my best friend and they were going through this situation, what would I tell them to do?" And the answer is going to be obvious. Here's why when we do this from our first person perspective, that it gets muddy emotionally, because all of a sudden we start imposing other things upon the situation rather than just looking at the financial facts of the situation. We start to say, "Well, if I don't co-sign for this car for my son, then how is he going to get back and forth to work? Then I'm probably going to have to drive him. Or maybe he's not going to work and he's he just got some girl pregnant, and then your mind starts spiraling into all these things, right? But when we use the be your own best friend technique, it makes it much easier for us to dial in on the facts of the situation and to look at the pros and cons of each side with a much clearer head, and our emotions dialed down to the point to where we can actually hear common sense. And here's the thing. Each of us should be our own very best friend. Once you do this, then be smart enough to take your own advice. So here's the thing. Your emotions are not the enemy. They are a powerful force that can be used and controlled for a positive result. So there you have it, my top 3 emotional money tools that you can use to increase your financial dignity right now. Which one is your favorite? I would love it if you connected with me on social media and let me know. So, my friend, this is where I leave you for today. If you have enjoyed this conversation, please leave us a review. It helps others find the Money is Emotional podcast. And if you're not a subscriber yet, then what are you waiting for? Hit the subscribe button and you'll be notified as soon as a new episode drops. Until next time, this is Christine Luken reminding you that you're good enough, you're smart enough, and gosh darn it, people love you, including me. Bye for now.
Thank you for listening to the Money is Emotional podcast. To get in touch, visit our website at www.christineluken.com or drop us a line at hello@christineluken.com. And don't forget to click the follow button to be notified when new episodes become available. The information covered and posted represents the views and opinions of the guest and does not necessarily represent the views or opinions of Christine Luken. The content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only. The content is not intended to be a substitute for professional investing or tax advice. Always seek the advice of your advisor, tax professional, or other qualified financial professional with any questions you may have regarding your personal finances.